What's up? It's Raphael with NBA Draft Junkies, and I do not have a video for you today, but what I am going to do is answer a question that I have been receiving a lot lately. And almost 2 or 3 times a week, I have someone ask me how can they get involved with scouting, or they tell me that this is their dream, they would love to do it. And I just want to share my story. And I'm not where I hope to be in 5 years. I'm nowhere near my goal. And so at first I wanted to wait until I made it to share my story or talk about how to get there. But I just feel like the time is now. I think I'm in a pretty good space, and I've kind of made a little bit of a name for myself in this whole draft world. First thing I would say is, if this is something that you want to do, you have to be passionate about it. It has to be something that you really love doing. And when I say it's something you love doing, I mean it's something that you'd have to be willing to do it for free. I have this theory that whatever you do for free is what you love. Or if someone gave you $10 million, would you go to work in the morning? If the answer is no, then you may not be doing what you love. And if you had $10 million in your bank account, what would you do? So if you say you would cover the NBA draft, then that means that's something that you're really passionate about. If you say if you had $10 million in your bank account and you would just travel the world, then that's something you're passionate about. And maybe that's an opportunity for you to figure out if you want to start a business traveling, being a content creator traveling, or even leading group tours of people that want to travel but are afraid to lead and they need a tour guide. So I said all that to say this has to be something that you really love. It has to be something that you're passionate about. I've had quite a few people want to work with me. And I mean, they really liked basketball. They thought it was cool, but there's a lot of that goes into it that's not always glamorous. And so for me, I knew at a young age, I was probably 12 years old, and I knew that I wanted to work in some capacity covering the NBA draft. And like a lot of people, I did the quote unquote right thing. I went away to college, and after college, I graduated, and I thought because I know a lot more than the average person about sports and basketball, I could tell you what college every NBA player went to. I somehow thought that love and knowledge would land me an opportunity. What I did not know was that just because I knew rosters and I knew players' backgrounds doesn't mean that I was being an asset. So number one, the first thing you have to do is find out a way to be an asset. What do you bring to the table that creates value or that adds value? And for me, it took me a long time to figure that out. And when I was 21 or whatever, I graduated from college, and I just knew I was going to work in the NBA somehow. And I was going on Teamwork Online. If anybody knows, it probably still exists, but I used to fill out my resume on Teamwork Online every single time a job posted. And I don't know anybody that has been successful on Teamwork Online. And, it's one of those things where it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And at the time, I didn't really know anybody. But I had a job that I liked. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't what I wanted to do, but it paid the bills, and it was something that I was, to be honest with you, I was pretty good at. I left that job for a better paying job, and I hated it. When I say I hated this job, and I'm such a basketball head, I used to break the day down into 4 quarters, right? From 8 to 10 was the first quarter. Then I have to go from 10 to 12, and once I get to 12, it was halftime. And then I would break that down from 12 to 2, and so on, or 1 to 3, whatever. But I hated it. I got up in the morning, and it was just kind of you're dragging. And I knew I couldn't live like that. I knew that was not the way to live. I knew that there was something that I wanted to do that was better than this. And I knew I did not want to fall into that trap that I've seen so many other people fall into. So out of pure coincidence, I guess the job saw that I wasn't a good fit. And one day I came in, and they called me in for a meeting, and they told me that I had been laid off and that I had only been there 6 weeks. and they said that they made a mistake on their budget and they didn't have the budget to pay a new employee. So they're laying me off effective immediately, and then they gave me, I think, maybe 2 months pay as severance. So that was, that was good. So at that point, I decided to go to LA. It was crazy, but I had decided to go to LA. I wasn't tied down to a commitment as far as like a mortgage, and I went to LA. And one of the reasons I enjoyed my time in LA is because I learned that LA is a city where people move there to chase a goal or a dream. It's a place where people go and they're not afraid of looking bad. So on the outside, you think LA is all glitz and glamour, and you see Hollywood and you see the flashy cars. But there's a real side of LA where people are really struggling, living 4 or 5 people in a 2-bedroom apartment because they're all there trying to pursue a career in acting or modeling or photography or whatever. And people in LA aren't afraid to look bad chasing their dreams. And while I was out there, I kind of felt like, you know what, I can do this. I didn't really know too many people out there. And I lived in Texas and I had a house, but my apartment in LA was old, and it didn't even have central air. But at the time, I felt like I was learning more about myself and learning that there's nothing wrong with taking a step back to go forward. So this is where things kind of really changed for me, and it's probably the biggest test of my commitment to working in sports. Now, at this time, I still don't know what I want to do. I know my goal is to be a general manager of an NBA team. I know that I want to scout and work in basketball operations. But at this time, I do not have a specific asset that brings value. Luckily, I get this internship with the Los Angeles Clippers. I was going to this church. A lady that went to the church had a friend that worked for the Clippers, and she basically paved the way for me to get this internship. But the internship is unpaid, and I'm 30 years old. 30 years old, unpaid internship. And to make matters worse, in order to be part of the internship program, I have to have college credit. Now, I've already graduated from college at this point. I've been out of school like 7-8 years. So I end up signing up, taking a PE class at a community college. So I'm in there playing kickball at 30 years old at a community college. So my first day, I tell the teacher, I introduce myself, and I say, hey, I got an internship with the Clippers. Here's this paperwork that I need for you to fill out so I get credit for my internship. And he looks at me like, so you just basically are taking my class so you can get the internship? And I'm like, yeah. He says, okay, well, I'm not going to sign it now, because once I sign it, how do I know you're going to come back? Which made sense. I totally get it. It made sense. But in order for me to start the internship, I have to have this paperwork. So I think I may have did 2 days. And I was the only one that hadn't brought their paperwork back, because all the other interns were actually real college students. So I'm still trying to convince my boss that I'm going to get the paperwork in, but I'm trying to explain to I don't even want to call him a professor, this PE teacher, that, time is of the essence and I need to get this paperwork in or I'm going to lose my internship. And this is probably one of the worst days of my life. And for whatever reason, I didn't charge my phone that night, and it didn't go off. I don't know, just for whatever reason, it didn't charge. And I was on my way to go to the PE class to see if I can get the teacher to sign the paperwork so I can take it back. So if you watched the Last Chance U basketball, it was actually that same school. So it was in East LA, and then the Clippers office is in Playa Vista, if you know LA. So I'm on La Cienega. If you know LA, La Cienega is a major street. I can't explain what happened. My car just goes out. And it is in morning traffic. It goes out, completely goes out. And it was the battery. And I couldn't even charge my phone. I couldn't charge my phone in the car because the battery was dead. So, in whatever juice I had left, I had to call to get a tow truck. I think I called the Clippers office, And, it was before work hours, so I left a voicemail, then my phone is dead. Long story short, it took forever for me to get my car towed, then go to the dealership, get my phone charged, and I ended up getting fired from the internship for no call, no show. And I didn't have my paperwork in time. So that was, as you can imagine, that's very disappointing. And what I forgot to add was that I had got evicted 3 days before. So I was staying on a friend's couch, which was already tough for me, but I was staying on my friend's couch, and it was a friend of mine that was, just a great friend. She was supportive of my dream because I always share with her what I wanted to do, and I had let her know I got evicted. I didn't let anybody else know, but I let her know that I got evicted. And she was like, well, you got this internship. You have such a great opportunity. You can stay on my couch. And I knew it was something that she wanted to do to be supportive as a friend, but I knew it was uncomfortable for her because she was used to living by herself. So within like a week, I got evicted. I lost my internship. And then when I found out how much it was going to cost to fix my car, they told me it was $20,000. Now, I had like a ridiculous amount of faith because somehow, some way I was still trying to figure out, like, I'm going to get this internship. I'm going to do such a good job that they're going to find a way to pay me. And then by the time they pay me, I can put that money on my apartment before I lose it. But in reality, there was no way I was going to be able to intern every day in the office and game days and make enough money to pay my bill. So I pretty much gambled on faith, thinking that this was going to lead to something, and it didn't. And at that time, I just had to, I felt like a failure. I had to pack up my car, ship it with all my belongings in it back to Texas. And from there, I stayed with my brother and his wife and his baby. Now I have no car, I have no job, and I have no money at this point. And what did I do? Took an unpaid internship with the Texas Legends. That's how dedicated I was. And what I ended up doing was I got a job working at a gas station that was across the street from the apartment. Now here I am, I'm 30 years old. I have a college degree. I used to own a house. I had a late model BMW, but I take a job at a gas station. I was paying like $7 an hour. And a paycheck was barely enough to pay my phone bill. And I was like borrowing my brother's car. I was just finding ways to get to this internship with the Legends. And I'm so thankful for that opportunity. And when I was with the Legends, I drove the team van. I washed jerseys. I washed towels. I set up the arena before the games. Just a bunch of grunt work. And then what I ended up doing, I want to say the second season, was I created DVDs for the referees, because after the games, the team, and this is like 2010, so the team wants their DVDs of the game, and so do the referees. So my job was to record the games, give the videos to the referees. But one of the things I did, and I was kind of strategic with it, and I was kind of thankful that I was an older intern. I knew that if I drove the team van to pick up the opposing team up from the airport, I knew the coaches would sit in the front seat. So it gave me an opportunity to meet some of the coaches and network with them. And even like Taylor Jenkins, for an example, the Memphis Grizzlies coach, was one of the assistant coaches at the time. And from there, I just was trying to figure out a way where I can be an asset and bring value. And I was bringing value to the Legends because they were getting all this work done for free, but it wasn't really getting me anywhere, because I felt like, if I'm doing all this work for free and I'm providing all these services, what incentive do they have to pay me if they don't have to? So at that time, I realized that I had a degree in broadcast journalism, and I thought, okay, well, let me figure out a way to bring some type of value by doing video work. And I started, trying to do some video work. I started recording the games, and then I ended up becoming the main cameraman. Then an opportunity came up to where, and this is another step of just hard work and not quitting, not giving up. And I had went out of the country with my parents on an anniversary. And the only reason I was able to go was because somebody paid my way to go because they wanted me to document it and film this church anniversary that was in Paris, France. And I had tweeted, I would love to live overseas. Visiting is cool, but I would love to live overseas. 10 minutes later, an agent reached out to me and said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah, I would love to live overseas." And he says, "All right, I might have something for you." And a few months later, I had an opportunity to live in Istanbul, Turkey, and my job was to document Efe Yudo's second season in Istanbul when he played for Fenerbahce. It ended up being like the perfect storm of events. Fener won the EuroLeague. I got a chance to travel with the team and go to all the different cities, from Madrid to Barcelona to Athens to Tel Aviv. And I created social media content for the team. And that is where I started the NBA Draft Junkie site, because I had plenty of time on my hands. And I wanted to have a website that I felt was going to be a little bit different. At the time, Draft Express had just transitioned over to ESPN. I felt like there was a gap in the whole draft space for video content, and I knew I could create videos. And once I started trying to start a website, I asked a friend of mine, "How much would you charge to do a website like this?" And he was like, "Oh, that's anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. I didn't have that type of money. But now I understand why it costs so much, because each player gets a page. And if I had someone doing my website, they're going to have to update it every time I want to create a profile, which can get expensive. So I taught myself how to do my website. It took forever. I want to say I probably started working on it in October. I probably didn't launch until February. I mean, I had to change how it looked, just kind of learn how to build a website on my own. And then I started doing videos, and I do a video, it may get like 400 views, but things have changed now. I mean, there's so many guys that are making profile scouting report videos, but at that time it wasn't really a lot of people doing it. And from there I fell in love with the international game. I fell in love with how different international basketball is compared to the States, whether it's the fans, the style of play, the rules. And then it really intrigued me on how to project an NBA, how to project a international player to the NBA game. And then what makes it even tougher is sometimes a guy is playing on a senior team and he's not getting any minutes. Or a guy is one of the best in his age group at 18 years old, and now he's ready for the draft, but he's making a huge jump. So that really intrigued me, but it also let me know that I have a lane by myself. I'm this American that has a draft website that can create his own content, but knows the international prospects. So when I talk about adding value or bringing something different, that was kind of what separated me from this very competitive field. If you look at my NBA draft videos, the most popular ones that have the most views have been prospects from overseas, because if I do a video on like Zion Williamson, he probably has 1,000 videos on YouTube. But I realized, like, if I do a video on Goga Batadze, the whole country of Georgia is going to watch. So I started focusing on the international prospects, and that was like my niche that kind of separated me, along with the fact that I can create my own content. That was kind of a condensed version of my story. But if there's anything I want you to get out of this story, is that don't give up. If there's something that you want to do, do not give up. There are times where it's going to look like it's not happening for you. Somebody else is progressing faster than you. Don't give up. Keep going. I know for me personally, I've been evicted. I've been carless. And at one point I rode around on a moped. One summer I only had a bicycle. I used to ride a bike everywhere. I was in shape that summer. And it was a cheap Walmart bike. So the bike was probably like 50 pounds. It wasn't like, these really good Cannondales or Specialized where they're light and you going fast. No, it was a heavy mountain bike. And I mean, I've been through it. I mean, I would say I probably went years without having a car. I mean, I've had times where I was in my apartment with the lights off. I went like years without cable and TV because I couldn't afford it. And here's something, and I'm just going to be 100% real. There was one point where I prayed to God and said, please take this desire to work in sports away from me. Please let me accept a regular 9-to-5 lifestyle. Let me be like other people who looks like they have a good job and they just enjoy their weekends. Take this desire away from me because it was frustrating. And I remember at one point I was 37 years old and I was on a bus stop waiting for a bus to go make $50 to go film a video. And I struggled financially because I never charged people on projects based off my worth. I charged them based off of what I needed. So if there was a video project that somebody else may charge $1,000 for, but I felt like I know I need them to say yes right away, I may do it for like $300 because, okay, I needed that $300 right now because I'm $300 short on my rent. And I just wasn't good at business. I was not good at business. And the breaking point, like the big career changing breaking point for me was 2020. And in 2020, I had just got back from living in China. And I mean, like when I had lived in China a couple times, and when I'm over there working with players, I make pretty good money, but it's only from the time I'm there. And then it just starts all over. So if I'm there for 3 months, I may make decent money, but then now all my video clients or got kids that I was training, I lost them. And when I come back to the States, I jokingly said it was like getting out of jail. Like I got to start all over because, you know, everybody has kind of moved on. But in 2020, I started my podcast. I started the NBA Draft Junkies podcast, and I was cranking out videos almost every day. If you scroll down the timeline, you'll see I was interviewing people, whether it was somebody that commented on my video, I allowed them to come on and share their thoughts. And my podcast ended up getting picked up by David Locke and the Locked On Network. And from there, I had like a real podcast with structure and ads, and I started making a little bit of money doing that. Then I did a live draft show at the 2021 draft. And like I said, the podcast has grown. Opportunities have grown. I'm right now currently in Athens, Greece, because I wanted to spend another year over in Europe knowing the international scouts. I want to scout kids that are born in 2005. I want to be able to have an early jump when they become draft prospects in 2025 or 2027 or whatever. But again, do not give up. If this is something that you want to do, find a way to separate yourself. If you're a numbers guy, use statistics. If you have a great personality, then mix in your humor and your personality with your sports takes. But don't give up. Don't be someone that has this goal or dream and you settle for less than you should. Like when I talk about athletes, one of the things that I like to talk about is if this guy does this, he'll maximize his potential. If he works on his jump shot, he can maximize his potential. And I say the same for myself. If I continue to work every day, I'm going to maximize my potential. And I want everybody to maximize their potential because there's somebody out here that is probably talented enough or smart enough to be an NBA general manager, but they didn't have the endurance to stick through it, or they had self-doubt. Don't be that person. Maximize your gifts, maximize your talent. If you want to get involved with scouting, I mean, there's so many features, so many things that you can do. Create a website or a blog. Use that as your resume. It's a live resume. You never know who sees it. I've seen so many guys that, and we call it draft Twitter, that talked about the NBA draft or talked about prospects. They made good takes, and then all of a sudden they disappear. And come to find out, the reason why they disappeared is because an NBA team saw their work on Twitter, hired them, and of course, you know, once they hire you, they don't want you talking about different prospects. So I've even seen guys get jobs from NBA teams based off of their YouTube videos. They use YouTube as a live resume. So again, I keep saying it over and over again, maximize your potential. Don't quit. Don't quit. most people want to work in sports. They give up after a few years because it's a grind and you're not going to get paid. Be creative. Find ways where you can make money. What I did was, even though I was still kind of broke, I started coaching youth basketball. When I started coaching youth basketball, I knew that I could make a little bit of money doing that. I may charge each parent $250 for the season. Now, if I had 10 kids, that's $2,500. That may help. Then I started growing. I think at one point I had 5 or 6 teams, and I think I may have been charging like $400 for the season. Now I had to factor in how much it costs for uniforms, how much it costs for tournaments, how much it costs for practice time. But that added up and was able to keep me afloat a little bit. But yeah, just think of different ways that you can make money. But money usually is the determining factor why most people stop working in sports, because it's so much easier to go get a job doing something that you don't like as opposed to struggling and working in sports. And you just never know who's watching. I know this video ran a little bit long. I decided I wanted to tell my story, how I got into scouting. It's still a brief version. I mean, again, I've started this journey in 2009. It's 2022. So there's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs during that process. But again, you're talking to somebody, or you're listening to somebody that's been evicted, that's had cars repossessed, that didn't have lights. And for whatever reason, I just kept going and I had confidence in myself. And right now I'm in a good place, but you can be in a much better place if you don't make some of the same mistakes I made. Well, hopefully this can inspire someone. Again, like I said, I know it's a little long. This is Raphael with NBA Draft Junkies, and I'm out.